Good afternoon, cult members, and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
And I'm Josh.
This is the Rebel Files, your one-stop shop for everything Star Wars, wild speculation, news notes, some reviews, and we're back. We've been gone. Some of us went on vacation, and then we had holidays, and then somebody moved. So,
in the last holes, shouldn't be doing it again. Thank God.
Hopefully not. At least not for a little while. But yeah, we haven't had the chance to do a Star Wars specifically based show for a while, and Janice and I have been putting up a bunch of content. I need to get my Star Wars fix. As much as Janice loves Star Wars, she just can't go deep dive like the two of us can. So
everybody's got their niche nerddom. You just have to have it.
Yeah, totally. So what we're gonna do, it's gonna be somewhat timely. The two of us haven't actually had a chance to talk about Rise of Skywalker, and so we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about the Kenobi stuff that's going on, and then the Clone Wars trailer and what we think is going to happen and stuff like that. That's going to be this week's episode, at least, so you have an idea. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and hit the bell for notifications and all that kind of stuff. Help us out by sharing with your friends too. So let's get into Rise of Skywalker. I know, timely. It's a month old and it's made $1 billion.
And then there's the search for what could have been potentially. That's been a big thing lately. So
we were talking back and forth on text today. I have not read or listened to what the Trevorrow script was going to be. You're the expert on that one.
Yeah, so it definitely darker. I'll preface that by saying, I think when both me and you walked out of the theater, we were very, very happy with Rise of Skywalker.
Yes,
we enjoyed it. It was a fun romp. My only concern that I had with Rise of Skywalker was they should have given Wedge just a little more screen time.
Wow.
The man deserves it.
Let's be honest. Dennis Lawson came in for like 15 minutes, put the costume on, and then left. Yeah,
that's all I had to do. But it was a fun. Rise of Skywalker was absolutely fun. I will state that I knew the entire plot going in. I read the leaked script. I read all the leaked content out there, and I would say about 95% of the leaked stuff was accurate. So whoever's leaking out there, I'm just going to avoid all their Reddit stuff from now on because the dude's got the inside information. Right. Whoever it is, they were pretty much spot on. Now, that being stated, like anything with a leak, you go in and you're like, okay, well, you don't know what interval this was leaked, what time, when it came out, what changes were done since then. And I always try to allow myself, because I am a bit of a spoiler junkie, and I try to allow myself that opportunity to see what they do, see how they're doing it. Because, snippets are like 30 minutes, but the movie's 2.5 hours long. So,
right.
Dug it. Jumped right into it. Yes, they left some things unexplained, but they're going to explain it. But I enjoyed it. The Trevorrow script, I would have loved to see as a movie as well.
Right.
Because as much as I love Rise of Skywalker, part of me says I might have enjoyed the Trevorrow just a little bit more because being a Last Jedi person yourself, it was a direct sequel to Last Jedi.
Right.
His treatment.
That's what a lot of people have been saying.
Yeah. It seriously hit the chords and expanded on the chords that they laid out in The Last Jedi. And I would have loved to see that instead of a little bit of the retconning they did. That being stated, I think both would have worked as movies. I would love to see a version of Trevorrow's version. I think it was very dark. I think it went down a path that a lot of us wanted to see in a script. Right. That being stated, we got Rise of Skywalker, loved Rise of Skywalker, hit all the emotional buttons, hit all the fandom buttons, hit a lot of the nostalgia buttons. Dude, I loved it. It was fun.
Yeah, I'm right there. It was my second favorite movie from last year. Not the best movie that I saw last year, but it was everything that I wanted out of the last of the Skywalker saga. Now, we're going to get more Star Wars movies going forward, and there's all kinds of rumors and speculation, and that's a different show for at least down the line. But I got everything I wanted pretty much with understanding that a lot of what they wanted to do with Carrie and have Leia and her arc kind of got not kinda. It unfortunately got changed in a way that they just had to work around Carrie Fisher's death, and so some of the complaints that I heard about with her and how they changed some of the plot angles and stuff like that because of her death. I get that understanding, but for me, I was so happy with almost everything they did, and the questions that they brought up, or things that they brought in that weren't quite solved, is fine with me, because guess what? There's a shit ton of stuff in the original trilogy and the prequels and the sequel trilogy that still hasn't been explained. That's why you have the expanded universe, the expanded canon of all the books and the comics and the Clone Wars and Rebels
Yep.
and Resistance and all that kind of stuff. And so I was just super satisfied with everything, and I can't fault people for not liking it. But what I was really having a hard time with was a lot of the backlash from people that they retconned a lot of stuff from Last Jedi. No, they did not. They expanded on a lot of stuff. They just didn't expand it in a way that you liked or that you thought they were going to go down a certain road, which is what you're saying that the Colin Trevorrow script did. And so I just Janice and I were talking about it. Like I got really super emotional, like defensively about the Rise of Skywalker, and anybody who was going after it and attacking it, I really got angry with them, and I actually had to end up going through and muting some conversations for a while because I was completely done with the conversation. For just the straight hate for everything that they did, and it was just making me mad. So there's some. Go ahead.
I think in terms of being fans, and everything, I think we're not gonna 100% like every single thing they throw out there,
Oh, yeah,
because
no, there's no way.
they're the stories we enjoy, and in between movies we're in our own heads and we're creating the scenarios that we want to have. But there are angles that I do think, there's good writing, there's sloppy writing. You know what, kids? At the end of the day, this is what we got.
Yeah.
Go
This is
write
the story
your
that
own
we got.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do what some people do and go make fan films. There are some amazing fan films out there. Like, just amazing fan films.
Yeah.
Go write it, go do your own stuff. Yes, was the Trevorrow version a little darker? Did it expand on Last Jedi a little better? Yes. And the reason why was because they really kept that whole balance. No Sith extreme, no Jedi extreme. He really kept that in check of being, this is the Force. And they kept a very good job of that in that script. Rise of Skywalker leaned a little back into the Jedi thing, but it still works. That's the big thing.
I like that they left it with Rey being with the gold lightsaber, the yellow lightsaber, the defender of the Force, not necessarily a light side user, although she is good, so on the light side, but leaving it with that, kind of having her be the defender of the Force. I really like that kind of cap on, not necessarily leaning one way or the other, but being a defender of everything that we knew and stuff. And I like the Palpatine being the big bad, and I even like the way they kind of handled him, and just the Leia and Luke scene where Luke was training Leia with, the flashback scene, that just got me. But the scene that got me the most was the scene at the end when Maz gives Chewie the medal. And now I know that in canon there was a comic where they actually gave Chewie his medal finally. That wasn't this medal. This medal was Han's medal. It was Han's medal that Leia kept, and Leia gave them, and then they gave it to Chewie. And just just thinking about it now is what makes me all teary-eyed and weepy. And it's just that slight little detail that I didn't catch until later on when I started doing math. I'm like, of course Chewie had a medal. Oh wait, that's that medal. Was just a nice cap. It was stuff like that. Was this movie a lot of fan service? Yes, and like all the right ways. So was Endgame, and Endgame was my favorite movie of the year. So that was all fan service the entire time with Cap with Mjolnir, Somebody's excited about talking about Star Wars with us. Anything else you want to talk about with the Rise of Skywalker, at least, and like, you know, just kind of like, it's kind of hard to go back and review it a month later after it came out. Maybe then when the DVD comes out, we can do a deeper dive on stuff. But
yeah, it is. I mean, that's right. I mean, the performances were so good. I mean, we've heard a lot. There's mostly within the actual groups themselves. You know, you hear a lot of talk about Jonas Sutomo and his performance.
Yeah,
I gotta give that. That was. I'm not the dude who cries easily at movies unless they're Disney animated, in which case I'm bawling.
Right.
You know, but that entire scene with him and doing the whole Chewbacca thing and finding out that it was not quite scripted that way. It was just they kind of let it happen.
Yeah.
And like, dude, his performance, man, like to see Chewbacca, who's like one of the most, you know, badass characters that they've ever done, you know, Wookiee of all time, just breaking down like that. Like, dude, that was emotional. And
that roar just broke my heart. It was like,
and just kudos to how they did it. They, you know, like we kind of touched base on this before, and all the haters, you know, talk about it. Yeah, it didn't do everything, and they left some plot holes. Look, man, you got to cram a lot into that time frame, a lot. So you know what? I think they did good. It was a fun romp. I loved it. I was never the big supporter of the redemption of Kylo Ren. I was never on board with that. I always wanted him to just be the big bad, suck it up and go full tilt evil. However, I like how they did it. I like the Han sequence that they brought back in. I like the fact that and these were elements that they had borrowed from Trevorrow's script.
Yeah.
A lot of these were little elements that they had borrowed from it, where he's being, you know, in Trevorrow's script, he's being tortured by Luke. And they kind of flipped it in this one to bring Han back. You know, in the Trevorrow script, Rey got her staff, double yellow lightsaber. And I'm just going to say it right here. I am a fan of the gold saber. It's classic. I believe in it. I love Jedi Temple Guards. So when the whole thing comes out and her staff, like all of us had wanted over the years, became her, you know, saber, that was the icing on the cake for me. So
I have an essay that I'm going to do at some point in time about how as soon as Rey flicked that lightsaber, and the turning of the lightsaber, how she turned it on, and at that moment I realized that I no longer wanted to be Luke. I wanted to be Rey. And like that emotional journey that I had to go on, why I wanted to be Rey now and not Luke, is something I'm still working out. I'm writing the script. I'm writing it out. I'll eventually do a video for it once I kind of get ready for it. But that whole last sequence and her taking the sky, we actually even talked about her taking the Skywalker name and being kind of the adopted family concept, and I like the redemption. I like the Reylo stuff. Anyways.
the only element I really wish they would have kept, and this was for us. So your homework is you've got to go read the information on the Trevorrow script, because all I'm going to say is this: Kylo and Rey go to Mortis.
I've heard about the Mortis stuff, and I'm very interested in how that all would have worked out, because we spent a lot of time talking about the Mortis arc, and that shows that script and what Colin was writing there, like he's a super deep dive folklore.
There was a lot of it.
Yeah, and I think at some point in time with the Disney Plus stuff, we might get some version of that in an animated or a what if or that kind of thing. They're looking for new content all the time for Disney Plus, so put it out there for that, and it would be kind of cool. Let's talk about the Kenobi stuff. Speaking of original trilogy and everything, they finally announced for sure that we're getting the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. They were saying it was going to be 8 episodes. Then I've heard 6, and then I've heard 10, and now they're thinking about 4. But the big news has been lately is there was a rumor going around about 2 weeks ago that the series itself had been canceled. Yeah. The source of that story was The Onion kind of Twitter page or whatever, and it took off, and everybody was saying the series had been canceled. And then about a week ago, we got news that the series itself, the production for the series, was supposed to start in August of this year, and they're pushing it back till January of next year. So full calendar year from now, they're going to start production. And the talk is that they wanted to change the scripts up a little bit. Not that the scripts were bad. In fact, even Ewan McGregor came out and said he really liked the scripts. They're going to do some tweaking. Now, we've talked about how the internet grabs one little thing and they take off with it, and it turns into its own story, and how, Kathleen Kennedy doesn't like the scripts, and so they're changing everything around, and they fired the writer, and Ewan quit because he didn't like the scripts. And from my point of view with this story, I feel like they're going to put some stuff. They wanted to add some stuff to the Kenobi series to set up the stuff that's going to be the future of Star Wars, which right now it sounds like the next line of movies is going to be the High Empire.
High Republic.
High Republic, that's what it was. As soon as I said Empire, I knew it was wrong. High Republic stuff, which is about 400 years before prequels. Yep. And so I would think that maybe they would use the Kenobi series to kind of throw some of that stuff in. But what are your thoughts about what's been going on with the whole Kenobi series, whatever news cycle that we've been getting out of this?
Yeah, the first thing when I first saw that story saying that it had been canceled kind of come out and everything, I was like, you got to be kidding me. If that's actually legit, which I doubt it, it's gonna be the death knell of Disney with Star Wars. It's just going to. They can't do that after two major motion picture, 3 major motion pictures that have had controversy. They can't do that. So somebody got a wild hair up their butt and posted too early. And sure enough, give it a couple of days, and then the story actually comes out. Right. And realistically, I'm not surprised. I'm a little bummed that it's getting delayed. But that being stated, I'm not surprised. They kind of came out guns blazing with this. Once the news got out, people started clamoring. We've got Mandalorian love. We want to go back to Tatooine. When are we going to see Ewan? The problem in that process, in that writing process, is Disney's not stupid, and especially if you've got Filoni and everybody else on board, they're going to go, wait a minute. Because a lot of times when you're starting to write a story and you're trying to make an interconnected universe, you're going to start writing script, and the script could be really, really good. But as you start getting into that production phase and you're looking at the script going, okay, what do fans really want? Well, they want an interconnected universe to a degree, and they're really trying to lay the foundations of that a little more. Yeah. So they go back in, they take a look at the script, and they go, okay, we're doing this Mandalorian thing. We got, maybe we want to tie it in a little more to Mandalorian. Something's going to come out. Okay, reshoot, re-edit. Okay, something else is going to come up with Project Luminous, or something's going to be coming up with the High Republic. So they're going to start taking these little elements, and they may actually be coming back and just going, it's not necessarily a reshoot. They might be filming things in a different way or additional material that'll be interlaced, which is why everyone's like, well, we don't know how many episodes it's going to be. Well, it's because Obi-Wan was originally meant to be a movie as opposed to a series. Yeah. So you have to take something that was designed originally as a movie to make it a little more episodic, but at the same point, maybe make a couple of small movies as opposed to episodes. And I think realistically right now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, okay, what do we need to refilm? What do we want to expand upon in the filming, and how's that going to impact the timbre and the pacing of how we want to deploy that, whether it's a series or a movie. I think they're just being smart about it, and they're just trying to make something quality. Give them a break. Let them take their time.
That's been part of my problem with a lot of the, I'll say, palaver on the internet has been the decisions that Kathleen Kennedy has been making has been about making stuff better. From my point of view. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but the decision to bring somebody in to help polish off Rogue One was the right decision. The decision to get away from the Colin Trevorrow script was probably the right decision. The idea to get away from this slapsticky Han Solo movie was probably the right decision. Now, does it look great? Obviously not. But this decision here we Janice and I talked a lot about the DCEU and how they were just putting everything out there so fast and not really spending any time really working out what they wanted to do with their story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're doing what Disney is doing is taking a pause. Disney, let me back up. Lucasfilm is taking a pause and say, if we're going to really do what the fans want, which is a giant interconnected universe, we can't really throw too much in with the Mandalorian. Now we can do stuff that's already existing, i.e. Ahsoka, i.e. Stuff from Battlefront 2, that kind of stuff. But we have this time period where Obi-Wan was learning really about the Force from his point of view. This is a great little point to put a bunch of stuff in. And he can be like the kind of, for lack of a better term, Dr. Aphra of this time period, and do some Indiana Jones kind of seeking around, learning about the history of the High Republic and how blind the Jedi were to Palpatine taking over and Darth Sidious, blinding everybody. And I think if you just take a moment, give yourself as a fan a chance to think about them wanting to do things the right way and making fans happy, them taking 6 months, an extra 4 months or whatever to polish off some scripts or changing some things around is totally cool. Like,
absolutely,
I'm totally cool with that. And it makes, I'm going to kick the camera. I'm going to borrow your dog to run over the camera. It just makes sense to me that like, I'd rather have them delay 8 months on their release date to put out something great than try to rush something out 4 months early and have us all be complaining about.
Yeah, and I mean, people need to kind of remember that the time period they're dealing with Obi-Wan, dude, there's a crap ton that they can explore. I mean, they haven't exactly stated what specific time period. You just know that it's before A New Hope. He's on Tatooine at some point, or on the way to Tatooine, or dealing with that. You've got the Fulcrum agents. You've got ties into Rogue One. You've got the Maul connections, the Crimson Dawn. You've got this entire thing. And who's to say? Right, and who's to say he was on world the entire time?
Right.
So there's all these little avenues that they can explore, and I agree with that. Let them take their time. There's enough coming out this year for us to speculate about. Luminous, supposedly now the first thing for Project Luminous is going to be a video game. That's going to be a big thing to try to introduce the High Republic into the equation. We've got Clone Wars. Dude, we got a lot of content this year, guys. Slow your roll. Let it come out. Let it be natural.
I get 2 seasons left. Where am I at? Almost the end of season 4, Clone Wars. So I think I got like 3 or 4 episodes from season 4, all of season 5 and season 6 to get to before February, the end of February, when season 7 of Clone Wars comes out. So that's gonna keep me busy getting that all ready. Then we have Project Luminous, and then they're saying Mandalorian's gonna happen by the end of this fall. It's coming out this fall, which means they're already working on it. And you got the Rise of Skywalker novelization, which I'm really interested in reading. You got Queen's Peril, the Padme book before the time when she was queen. You got all this other stuff that's coming out. That's the one thing I think that Star Wars fans like you and I, we love all of it. We love the books and the comics and the cartoons and the movies and the TV shows. We love all of that stuff. And people who are just in it for the movies, it was hard to explain to them when Darth Maul showed up in Han Solo, and you're like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, and everyone else is like,
wait, he's alive? Okay, there's robot legs involved. You have to go watch this stuff. So I'm okay with the idea that if they are really gonna do that time period, there's that 19-year gap between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. There's a bunch of stuff, different things you could do in there. And if you want to just do a season of Obi-Wan defending Luke on Tatooine and being like the hermit and learning about the Force that way, I'm totally cool with that. Or he's off on side missions to try to find out more about the Force and trying to find artifacts to maybe he's on a quest for the sacred texts that Rey ends up with at Rise of Skywalker. That would be a great story. That would be so much fun. So I try not to bitch about it too much, but it really just makes me angry when people just grab a headline from something and take off with it. It's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It's just just think about what's going on and why they would want to slow down and breathe and stuff. And
it's a problem with social media. Too many people reading the headlines and nobody reading the story.
Right. And Ewan McGregor the first story I heard that, he was walking away. I knew that was bull. And then I heard that it was being delayed. And I was like, okay, that gives me a chance gives me a pause. Like I have to pause and think about why. And then Ewan coming out and just saying, yeah, we're just going to change some stuff around. And we're doing production again in 4 months. This happens all the time. And it's like, well, duh. They change production schedules, or he got a different job, or Deborah Chow got a different job, or the conversation right now that Taika Waititi has been approached to do a Star Wars movie. Okay.
Well, they're saving money by filming on the same locations that they're shooting other stuff on at the same time. There could be a number of reasons.
Or they're gonna use the set Mandalorian, and they need to do, it's all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, I guess what it comes down to is just give it, just breathe.
Just breathe.
Just breathe. Reach out.
Just be one with the Force.
So it's just moving rocks. Is that what we're trying to ask people to do?
Physical labor does calm people down at some point.
That's true. So. I need to go work out so bad. Let's get into the Clone Wars trailer. Let's talk about the Clone Wars trailer that we got. I guess it was about a week ago or so.
Yeah.
There was a ton of stuff in this trailer. I'm still not really sure what the story's going to be about. I believe it's going to be the Siege of Mandalore, or at least the Mandalorian stuff involved. But I really liked the trailer. Like I got super hyped for this season and what could be coming. And it's after Ahsoka's left the Jedi Order. I don't think she's quite fulcrum at this point in time.
No, but I think we're going to see it.
We're going to see some kind of reference to it. And we know that it's going to go up to Revenge of the Sith. And so I'm wondering if they're going to handle like Order 66 and, how does Ahsoka handle Order 66? They talk about it a little bit in the book, but so what did you think of the trailer overall?
So I was super emotional. I loved it. I loved Clone Wars when it was out, and I knew it was coming out, and I was excited for the new season. I didn't know how jazzed I was going to be for it until I saw the trailer, and then I started getting 5-year-old amped. Yeah. The one thing that was really obvious though in it is kind of this change of pace. Like the Clone Wars, the entire series was, really started out being Anakin saga with Obi-Wan, and then as Clone Wars kind of changed, it went to becoming Ahsoka's story.
Right.
And I think that's the big thing that we're going to see in this is Ahsoka's story.
Yeah.
Most of this season, I think we're going to see Anakin and Obi-Wan really be more or less kind of side characters, and it's really going to be focusing on Ahsoka, and rightfully so. We know what happens with Anakin and Obi-Wan. So I think this really does need to set Ahsoka up in the greater arc. She's become a much bigger character than I think they ever expected. I know I'm a fan of hers. You're a fan of hers.
Yeah.
And I think it's just absolutely what they need. Now there were a few points that people brought out in the trailer where there are a couple of weird issues that might throw a wrench into things like Revenge of the Sith. So to your point, there's a couple of questions of, are they going to go a little bit beyond Revenge of the Sith, like just a hair?
Yeah.
Because I believe somebody called it, and I didn't catch it when I first watched the trailer, but somebody had called it with the whole Padme being pregnant in a message to him, which she wasn't aware of until Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
So there are a couple of questions that come down, but it could be a pre-edit just to get a trailer out there. We could see some stuff. She's wearing her Revenge of the Sith outfit in that scene. So there could be a couple things there, and I wouldn't honestly be surprised if they went past it just a hair, just as like a prologue, kind of like what they did with Rebels a little bit.
Right.
But dude, I'm stoked, man. I mean, I was absolutely giddy to see it. I can't wait to see what they do because and I don't know. Maybe this delay was actually the best thing we needed for Clone Wars because now we have all these other little tie-ins that can be brought into it. Like they've officially canonized Rex as being on Endor.
Yes.
You know, you might see a little wink, wink, nod, nod, and things like that. So so I think the timing's right. I'm stoked. I can't wait for it.
The two details that really got me was Bo-Katan, especially after what happened after the end of Mandalorian. We're not going to do the Mandalorian spoiler kind of thing, but what happens with Mandalorian, what that means and everything. So Bo-Katan being there. And then the other detail that got me, which ties into Rebels, is young Kanan Jarrus. Who before he's Kanan, before he whatever, and he's still a Padawan. He's there with Biloba, Biloba. I can't say her name, but he's there in the hologram when they're having the meeting around the table, and so they're showing how it's going to connect to Rebels, because a lot of the Rebels stuff connects to Clone Wars, but not necessarily Clone Wars to Rebels. And so you're able to throw some of that stuff in there, like Kanan, like Bo-Katan. Not that Bo-Katan's not an important member of Clone Wars, but it adds to what they did in Rebels, what they did in The Mandalorian. Again, how we were just talking about with the Kenobi series, about how having that connective tissue is what a lot of people want. Here's a season that they're going to do that, which and it's animation, so they've been working on it for like a year. So they have been working on this.
And the thing is, the cool is they've been working on this at the same time other things have been. So not only do you have the Rebels connection, we may have the Fallen Order connection with Cal Kestis, because Cal Kestis was there during the Purge, and his Jedi Master was a Jedi of, and I keep forgetting Zeb's race's name, but he was Jedi Master of Zeb's race, and so there could be another little tie-ins that we might see in there with that. So I think this is gonna, it's gonna do that.
Yeah, absolutely. The one of the things it's been rumored around is there's going to be an Ahsoka live action show. There's been some clamoring for it and stuff like that. There's also been talk about and there's also been talk of a Rebels sequel animation series with Ahsoka and Sabine. You could set up some stuff in this season of at the end, post Order 66, that ties into the book, that could lead into some stuff down the road with that kind of sequel series. But the idea of having this season really be, I mean, the show was, like you were saying, Ahsoka's show by the end. It was really, she is really she is really the audience towards the end of that show. You're an outside observer, just like Ahsoka is, to what's essentially the fall of Anakin, and the beginning of the fall of Anakin, and the beginning of the fall of the Jedi Order. And so having that perspective in this last season, especially since we know that Filoni had a end game with Clone Wars, and he never really got to do it, and he was able to pull some of it out to do for Rebels, but like now he can definitely tell that story. So I just, the more I think about it, the more I've watched the trailer, the more I do my rewatch with Clone Wars and how certain things mean and what it means to the Mandalorian and all that. Like I'm really psyched about this season. Like I said, I need to hurry and finish my rewatch of Clone Wars. Anything else we want to talk about when it comes to these three stories? I guess there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but like I said, we're trying to get back into the flow of things. So
yeah, we need another show about just Luminous and all the stuff around that one, because there's a lot going on with that, kids.
There's a lot of
cool potential stuff.
There's a lot of cool potential stuff, but what I love most about all that is they're being very hush-hush about all of that.
I know, right?
There's been some vague rumors on all of it, but for the most part, there's really nothing solidified about what that's going to be about. And I'm one. I'm wondering if we'll get some kind of big announcement here in the next couple of weeks with Project Luminous, with what the next movies could be, and the possible changeover of Kathleen Kennedy not walking away, but moving on to a different production position outside of Lucasfilm, and having the rumor that we had of Filoni and Favreau and Michelle Shashwan taking over as the head of Lucasfilm. I wonder if that actually is. I wonder, like, that's all that kind of stuff is in there, and I'm really interested if that's going to be. I'm expecting a lot of news here in the next few weeks. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get it. I think we're gonna get I think we're gonna get enough to chew on for a little bit, and then I think they're gonna save the rest for Celebration. I think that's really where we're gonna get a big chunk of Luminous. I think that's where we're gonna get a big chunk of Mandalorian season 2. I think that's where we're gonna get a big chunk of Kenobi. We might not. I don't know. But they're gonna have a couple of big things, for Celebration, like they always do. They keep it in their sleeve. So, we were supposed to get an update, I think, on Luminous relatively soon.
Soonish, because the first piece.
So
I think the first stuff is supposed to come out in March, April.
Yeah, we can check that because they're talking about the first thing being a game for fall. So and they haven't seen. They may be waiting that for ES.
Yeah. Yeah. E3.
Or E3. They might be waiting on the game portion of it for E3. I don't know. I don't know really what their deployment's going to be at this point. There's so much in the pipe. So I think we're just going to have to kind of sit back and be patient and wait.
See what happens. All right, that's this week's show of the Rebel Files. What did you guys think? And what are you looking forward to in the season of Clone Wars as it's coming up here, and what's going on in the Kenobi stuff and everything? So let us know in the comments. Like this video, hit subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and help us out on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, sometimes Twitter. And I guess that's it for this week. There'll be no the two of us won't do a show, but I might do a couple of news things if we get some information. They have to paint their house. So
we're not going to show you the funny color in the other room.
Yeah. Ooh, lime green. So that's this week's show. And like I said, do all the things. And until next time, I'm one with the Force.
And the Force is with us. Take care.